I supported him for 10 years, but when he banned me from his big day, I made one call that changed everything. They say blood is thicker than water, but I've learned that money is thicker than both. My name is Aylana, and this is the story of how 10 years of unconditional love and financial support taught me the hardest lesson of my life. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who will hurt you the deepest. It started with a phone call on a Tuesday morning in March. I was sitting in my office on the 42nd floor of downtown Chicago, reviewing quarterly reports for my consulting firm, when my phone buzzed with my brother Marcus's name, Aylana. His voice was bright with excitement, the way it used to sound when we were kids, and he'd discovered something amazing in our backyard. I have incredible news, Rebecca said. Yes, we're engaged. I felt my heart lift in a way it hadn't in months. Marcus, my baby brother, 28 years old and finally ready to settle down with the woman he'd been dating for 2 years. Rebecca was sweet, if a little quiet, and she seemed to make him happy in ways I hadn't seen since before our parents died. Marcus, that's wonderful, I said, genuinely thrilled. Tell me everything. How did you propose? When's the wedding? Do you need me to start planning? He laughed, that infectious sound that had been getting him out of trouble his entire life. Slow down, sis, we just got engaged last night. But actually, that's part of why I'm calling. We want to have the wedding this summer, August 15th. And Aylana, I want you to know that none of this would be possible without you. My throat tightened. For 10 years, since I was 25 and he was 18, I'd been taking care of Marcus. Our parents died in a car accident when I was finishing my MBA, and suddenly I was responsible for a grief-stricken teenager who had 2 years of high school left and dreams of becoming an architect. I could have let the state handle it, could have found him a nice foster family and focused on building my career. But Marcus was all the family I had left, and I wasn't about to let him disappear into a system that might not understand his potential. So I moved back home to our childhood house in Oak Park. I took out loans to cover his high school expenses, college tuition, and living costs. When my consulting business started taking off, I paid for his master's degree in architecture, helped him with rent when he was starting out, bought him a car when his broke down, and covered his health insurance. Until he found a job with benefits, I never thought of it as charity. He was my brother, and taking care of family was what you did. When he struggled to find work after graduation, I gave him money for interviews and networking events. When he wanted to take Rebecca on a romantic weekend to propose, I slipped him my credit card and told him to make it special. You don't have to thank me, I said, meaning it. I'm just happy you're happy. No, Aylana, I'm serious. You saved my life after Mom and Dad died. You gave up so much for me. I know you could have gotten married, had kids of your own, but instead you put everything into making sure I was okay. That stung a little because it was true. I'd dated sporadically over the years, but building my business and supporting Marcus had consumed most of my time and energy. The few relationships I'd had ended when men realized they'd always come second to my responsibilities as a surrogate parent. I made my choices, I said. And I'd make them again. You're worth it, Marcus. That's why I want you to be my best man, he said suddenly. I blinked. You're what? My best man. I know it's unconventional, but you're the most important person in my life. You're the one who stood by me, who believed in me, who made all of this possible. Rebecca thinks it's a beautiful idea. Will you do it? I was crying before I realized it, tears sliding down my cheeks as I sat in my pristine office overlooking Lake Michigan. He wanted me to be his best man. After everything we'd been through, all the sacrifices and struggles and small victories, he wanted me standing beside him on the most important day of his life. Yes, I whispered. Of course, I'd be honored. The next few months were a whirlwind of wedding planning. Rebecca wanted a small, intimate ceremony with about 50 guests, mostly family and close friends. I helped them book a venue, a charming garden space in Evanston, and offered to pay for the catering and flowers. Marcus protested, but I insisted. Let me do this for you, I said. It's not every day my little brother gets married. I threw myself into the preparations with the same intensity I brought to everything else. I researched photographers, tasted Cakes. Help Rebecca choose between 3 different shades of blush for the table linens. I wrote and rewrote my best man speech, wanting it to be perfect, wanting to capture not just my love for Marcus, but my gratitude for the man he'd become, Rebecca's. Family was lovely, though I could tell they were a little overwhelmed by the financial disparity between us. Her parents were both teachers, solid middle-class people who'd saved for years to contribute to their daughter's wedding. When they offered to split the costs with me, I gently declined, explaining that I wanted to handle everything as my gift. To the couple, "You're very generous," Rebecca's mother said to me one afternoon when we were addressing invitations. "Marcus is lucky to have a sister like you. I'm the lucky one," I replied. Marcus has been the light of my life since our parents died. Seeing him this happy, with someone who loves him the way you can tell Rebecca does, it's everything I could have hoped for. 2 weeks before the wedding, Marcus called me with what he said was a small issue. "Aylana, I need to talk to you about something, and I hope you'll understand." Something in his tone made my stomach clench. "What's wrong? Is Rebecca having second thoughts?" "Are you?" No, nothing like that. It's just ... Well, Rebecca's been talking to her friends about the wedding, and some of them think it's weird that my sister is my best man. I felt the first flutter of unease. Weird how? They're saying it looks strange in photos, that people might get the wrong idea about our relationship. And Rebecca's grandmother is very traditional. She doesn't understand why I'm not choosing one of my male friends. "Marcus," I said carefully, "are you asking me to step down?" "Not step down exactly. I still want you in the wedding party. Maybe you could be a groomsman instead, or you could do a reading during the ceremony." The disappointment hit me like a physical blow. For months, I'd been imagining that moment when he would turn to me during the ceremony, when I would hand him the ring and know that I'd helped make this moment possible. I'd been planning a speech that talked about watching him grow from a broken teenager into a man worthy of Rebecca's love. "I see," I said quietly. "Aylana, please don't be upset. You're still the most important person in my life. This is just about appearances, about making sure the day goes smoothly for Rebecca." "And what does Rebecca say about this?" There was a pause. "She agrees that it might be better to keep things more traditional. That hurt worse than anything." Rebecca, who I'd helped choose her dress, who I'd listened to when she worried about seating arrangements and flower choices, who I'd treated like the sister I'd never had. Rebecca thought I was too strange, too unconventional, too much of an embarrassment to stand beside her future husband. "Okay," I said, because what else could I say? "If that's what you both want, thank you for understanding. You're the best. Aylana, I'll have David be my best man instead, and you can give a toast at the reception." It'll be perfect. David, his college roommate who I'd met maybe 5 times, who'd been in his life for a fraction of the time I had, who'd never sacrificed anything for Marcus's happiness. David would get to stand beside my brother while I sat in the audience like any other guest. I hung up the phone and sat in my office for a long time, watching the sun set over the lake. I told myself it was fine, that what mattered was Marcus's happiness, not my hurt feelings. The wedding was about him and Rebecca, not about me. But it stung. After 10 years of putting his needs first, of being his champion and his safety net, and his biggest supporter, I was being pushed to the sidelines because I might make things awkward for people who barely knew us. The week before the wedding, I received a call that changed everything. "Aylana?" "It's Rebecca." Her voice was strained, nervous in a way I'd never heard before. "Hi, Rebecca. How are you holding up? Wedding week can be so stressful. That's actually why I'm calling. I need to talk to you about something, and I hope you'll understand." Those words again. The same phrase Marcus had used when he demoted me from best man to guest. My blood pressure spiked. "What's going on?" "It's about the guest list. We've been going over the final numbers, and we're realizing we're over capacity. We need to cut some people." "Okay," I said slowly. "Do you need me to help you figure out who to remove?" "Actually, Aylana, we've decided that maybe it would be better if you didn't come to the wedding." The words hit me like a slap. I actually pulled the phone away from my ear and stared at it, wondering if I'd heard her correctly. "I'm sorry, what?" "I know this is hard to understand, but Marcus and I've been talking. and we think it might be best if you gave us some space. On our special day, you've been so involved in the planning, and we're worried that having you there might make things feel more like your event than ours." I couldn't speak. Literally could not form words. My brother, the person I'd raised and supported and loved unconditionally for 10 years, was uninviting me from his wedding because I'd been too helpful. "Aylana? Are you there?" "I'm here," I managed. "We're so grateful for everything you've done for us, the money you've contributed, all the planning help, everything. But we want our wedding day to feel intimate and personal, and having you there might complicate that." "Complicate it how?" "People might focus more on our unusual family dynamic than on the celebration. Marcus's friends already think it's strange how close you two are, how much you've done for him. And my family doesn't really understand our situation. As if my love for my brother and my willingness to sacrifice for his happiness was some kind of shameful secret." "I see," I said, my voice completely flat. "We'll have a private dinner with you after the honeymoon. Just the three of us, to celebrate together. Won't that be nice?" A private dinner. After they'd celebrated with 50 other people. After they'd had their perfect day without the embarrassment of the sister who'd made it all possible, they'd graciously allow me to take them to dinner. "Rebecca," I said, "can I ask you something?" "Of course. Who's paying for this wedding?" There was a long pause. "You are." "But Aylana, that was your choice. You offered." I did offer, and Marcus accepted. "Do you know how much I've spent on this wedding so far?" "Aylana, please don't make this about money." $47,000, I said quietly. "The venue, the catering, the flowers, the photographer, Rebecca's dress alterations, the rehearsal dinner. $47,000 to celebrate a union that I'm apparently too embarrassing to witness. That's not fair. You know we appreciate everything you've done, do I?" "Because it sounds like you appreciate my money, but not my presence. Aylana, please. This is already hard enough." "Hard for who?" "Rebecca, hard for you, because I have to tell you, being uninvited to my brother's wedding after paying for it is pretty hard for me too. Maybe we should all talk together. Marcus should be part of this conversation." "No," I said. "I think you've made your position clear, both of you." I hung up the phone and sat in my office, staring at the walls, covered with photos of Marcus and me over the years. His high school graduation, where I was beaming with pride beside him. His college graduation, where he thanked me in his speech for being his guardian angel. The day he got his first job, when he called me crying with joy and gratitude. 10 years of photos, 10 years of memories, 10 years of being the most important person in his life. Right up until the moment when acknowledging that became inconvenient, I opened my laptop and pulled up the wedding budget spreadsheet I'd been maintaining. Venue deposit, $5,000. Catering, $18,000. Photography, $6,000. Flowers, $4,000. The list went on and on, a detailed record of my love translated into line items and receipts. Then I opened my banking app and started making calls. The first call was to the venue. "Hi, this is Aylana Martinez. I'm calling about the Robert Sundavis wedding scheduled for this Saturday." "Oh yes, Miss Martinez. Is everything okay? I need to cancel the event. I'm the one who made the deposit and signed the contracts, and I'm withdrawing my authorization for the wedding to take place at your facility. Mum, I'm not sure we can do that so close to the event date. The bride and groom would need to. I'm the sole financial guarantor for this event. According to the contract I signed, I have the right to cancel with forfeiture of deposits. Please cancel the booking and refund any payments beyond the deposit to my account." "But Mum, this is 5 days before the wedding. These people will be devastated." "Yes," I said quietly. "They will be." The second call was to the caterer. "This is Aylana Martinez calling about the Robert Sundavis wedding catering for this Saturday. I need to cancel the order." "Cancel, ma'am? We've already done most of the prep work. We'll have to charge you for the full amount." "That's fine. Cancel the order and bill me for whatever you need to charge. Just make sure no food shows up on Saturday." The third call was to the photographer. "Hi, this is Aylana Martinez. I need to cancel the Robert Sundavis wedding photography for this Saturday. Ms. Martinez, you do realize this is incredibly short notice. I'll have to keep your deposit, and I won't be able to book another event, I understand. Keep whatever you need to keep. Just don't show up on Saturday. I made 12 calls total. The florist, the musicians, the rental company for the tables and chairs, the bakery for the cake. One by one, I systematically dismantled the wedding I'd spent months planning and paying for. With each call, I felt a strange sense of calm settling over me. This was what happened when you treated people's love like it was disposable. This was what happened when you decided that someone's money was valuable, but their presence was embarrassing. My phone started ringing 20 minutes after I finished the last call. Marcus's name on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. He called again, and again, then Rebecca started calling. Then Marcus again. I turned off my phone and went home to my empty apartment, poured myself a glass of wine, and waited. The next morning, I had 17 voicemails and 43 text messages. I listened to them while drinking my coffee, watching Lake Michigan sparkle in the early sunlight. The first few messages were confused. Marcus asking me to call him back, saying the venue had called with some kind of mix-up. Rebecca wondering if there was a problem with the catering order. Then the messages got more frantic. Marcus had figured out what I'd done. His voice was raw with panic and disbelief. Aylana, what have you done? The venue says you cancelled everything. The caterer won't return our calls. This has to be some kind of mistake. Please call me back. We can fix this. Then anger, Rebecca's voice, high and shrill. Aylana, this is insane. You can't destroy our wedding just because you're upset about the guest list. This is psychotic behavior. Call us back right now. Then desperation. Marcus again, crying. Aylana, please. I know we hurt you, but this is our wedding. There are 50 people flying in from all over the country. Rebecca's grandmother is 92 years old, and she might not get another chance to see her granddaughter. Get married. Please don't do this. We can work it out. I deleted all the messages without responding. Saturday morning, I woke up early and drove to Lincoln Park. I found a bench overlooking the lake and sat there with my coffee, imagining what would have been happening if things had gone differently. Marcus would be getting ready now, nervous and excited, adjusting his tie and making jokes with David to calm his nerves. Rebecca would be in her bridal suite, having her hair and makeup done, surrounded by her bridesmaids and her mother. Instead, they were probably making desperate phone calls, trying to find a new venue, a new caterer, a new photographer, trying to salvage something from the ruins of their perfect day. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Aylana, I'm coming to your apartment. We need to talk. I turned off my phone and drove to my office instead. At 3 o'clock, the time when the ceremony would have started, I was sitting in my conference room reviewing contracts for a new client. The irony wasn't lost on me. While my brother's wedding was supposed to be happening, I was working, doing the thing I'd always done, building the business that had made everything else possible. I worked until 8 that evening, then went home and ordered Chinese takeout. I opened a bottle of wine and settled in to watch a movie, something light and meaningless that wouldn't make me think about families or love or disappointment. The knock on my door came at 9:30. I looked through the peephole and saw Marcus standing in the hallway. He looked terrible. His hair was disheveled, his eyes were red and swollen, and he was still wearing what looked like his wedding shirt, wrinkled and stained. I opened the door, but didn't invite him in. Aylana, he said, his voice hoarse, we need to talk, do we? You destroyed my wedding. You destroyed the most important day of my life. No, I said calmly. I withdrew my financial support for an event I wasn't welcome to attend. That's not what this was about, and you know it. We just thought you thought I was too embarrassing to have at your wedding. You thought my presence would complicate your perfect day. You thought 50 strangers deserved to witness your marriage more than the person who raised you. He leaned against the doorframe, looking defeated. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that, Marcus. For 10 years, I was good enough to pay your bills and solve your problems and support your dreams. But when it came time to celebrate your happiness, I was suddenly too strange, too involved, too much. You're my sister. Of course you're involved in my life, not according to Rebecca. According to her, our unusual family dynamic was something to be ashamed of. Our closeness was weird. My love for you was an embarrassment. Alana, please. We can fix this. We can have another ceremony. We can with what money? I asked. He went very still. What do you mean? I mean, I've spent $47,000 on a wedding I wasn't allowed to attend. I'm not spending another penny on a do-over, so that's it. You're punishing me for the rest of my life because of one mistake. I looked at him standing there. This man I'd raised from a broken teenager into someone who could love and be loved. Someone who'd built a career and found happiness. I'd been so proud of him, so proud of the person he'd become. Marcus, I said softly, do you remember when you were 20 and you came to me crying because you'd failed your statistics class and thought you'd never graduate? He nodded. Double quotes. Do you remember what I told you? You said that setbacks aren't permanent. Unless we make them permanent. And what else? You said that people will always show you who they really are if you pay attention, and that I should believe them the first time. I nodded. You and Rebecca showed me who you really are last week. You showed me that my love is conditional on my convenience. You showed me that 10 years of sacrifice and support can be erased the moment acknowledging it becomes socially awkward. That's not true, isn't it? When's the last time you called me just to see how I was doing? When's the last time you asked about my life, my work, my happiness? When's the last time you treated me like a person instead of a resource? He opened his mouth to answer and then closed it again. I've been so focused on taking care of you that I forgot to take care of myself, I continued. I've been so busy being your safety net that I never built a life of my own. And you know what? That's partly my fault. I enabled this dynamic. I let you take without giving back because I thought that's what love looked like. Alana, please, I do love you. You know I love you. Maybe you do, but you don't respect me. And love without respect isn't worth very much. So what happens now? You just cut me out of your life forever. I don't know, I said honestly. Right now, I need space to figure out who I am when I'm not defined by being your caretaker. I need to discover what my life looks like when it's actually mine. And Rebecca and me, what are we supposed to do? You're adults, Marcus, you're supposed to figure it out yourselves. The way adults do. He stood there for a long moment, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry, Alana, I'm so sorry. We never meant to hurt you like this. I know you didn't, but you did. And sorry doesn't undo the damage. Can you ever forgive me? I looked at this man I'd loved more than anyone in the world, this person I'd built my entire adult life around, and felt something shift inside me. The fierce protective love was still there, but it was different now, quieter, more conditional, maybe? I said, someday, but first, you need to figure out how to build a life that doesn't depend on my money or my constant support. You need to learn how to be a husband who puts his wife first without throwing away the people who got you there. And you need to decide whether you want a sister or just a benefactor. Alana, good night, Marcus. I closed the door and leaned against it, listening to him stand in the hallway for several minutes before finally walking away. 6 months later, I got a letter from Rebecca. A real letter, handwritten on nice stationery, not a text or an email. Dear Alana, it began. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I needed to write this. I owe you an apology that's 6 months overdue. She wrote about the aftermath of the cancelled wedding. How they'd had to call everyone, how humiliating it had been, to explain what had happened, how her grandmother had been heartbroken. But she also wrote about the conversations it had forced them to have. Marcus and I spent weeks talking about what we'd done to you, she wrote, about how we treated your love like it was a burden instead of a gift, about how we'd been so worried about what other people would think that we forgot to consider what our actions would do to the person who'd made our relationship possible. They'd eloped 2 months later, she wrote, a simple ceremony at City Hall with just their parents as witnesses. Marcus had insisted that if they couldn't have me there, he didn't want anyone else either. I know this doesn't fix what we did, the letter continued. I know we hurt you in ways that might never heal. But I wanted you to know that we understand now what we lost when we chose other people's opinions over your feelings. We lost the most important person in Marcus's life. We lost you. The letter sat on my kitchen counter for 3 days before I decided what to do with it. I wrote back, not a long letter, but an honest one. Dear Rebecca, I wrote, thank you for your apology. It means more than you know. I hope you and Marcus are building a marriage based on honesty and mutual respect. I hope you're learning to solve problems together instead of looking for someone else to fix them for you. I told her about the changes I'd made in my life. How I'd started dating again, had met someone kind and stable who saw me as a person, not a caretaker. How I'd taken the money I would have spent on future wedding expenses and used it to start a scholarship fund for students who'd lost their parents. How I'd joined a support group for people who'd been parentified as young adults and was learning to set healthy boundaries. I'm not ready to have a relationship with you and Marcus yet, I wrote. Maybe someday, but right now, I'm still learning how to have a life that belongs to me. I'm still figuring out who Elena is when she's not defined by being Marcus's sister. I wished them well and sealed the letter, then drove to the post office and mailed it before I could change my mind. A year later, Marcus called me on my birthday, not to ask for anything, not to invite me to something, just to say happy birthday and tell me he was thinking of me. How are you doing? He asked, and it sounded like he really wanted to know. I'm good, I said, and meant it. I'm really good. I'm glad. You deserve to be happy, Elena. You deserve to have a life that's about your dreams, not just mine. Thank you for saying that. I love you, he said. I know I didn't show it very well, but I do love you, and I'm proud of the person you are becoming. It was the first time in years that he'd said he was proud of me for something that had nothing to do with what I'd done for him. I love you too, I said, and Marcus. Maybe next month we could have lunch, just the two of us. As equals, I'd like that, he said. I'd like that very much. We're taking it slowly, rebuilding our relationship from the ground up. He's in therapy now, working through his guilt and learning how to be independent. Rebecca sends me occasional texts with photos of their apartment, their cat, small pieces of their life that don't require anything from me except acknowledgement. It's not the same as it was before. It never will be, but maybe that's okay, maybe? The relationship we're building now, based on choice rather than obligation, on mutual respect rather than financial dependence, is healthier for both of us. I still think about that wedding sometimes. About the day that changed everything, when my love was deemed too embarrassing to witness, too complicated to acknowledge. About the moment I realized that being someone's everything wasn't the same as being valued, but I don't regret what I did. Not the cancellation, not the confrontation, not the boundaries I said afterward, because that day taught me the most important lesson of my adult life, that love without respect is just exploitation wearing a prettier name. I learned that it's possible to love someone deeply and still refuse to accept poor treatment from them. I learned that family isn't just about blood or shared history. It's about mutual care, mutual respect, mutual investment in each other's happiness. I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop enabling someone's selfishness and force them to grow up. And I learned that I am not just Marcus's sister, not just anyone's caretaker or benefactor or safety net. I'm Elena Martinez, and I deserve to be loved for who I am, not what I can provide. That knowledge has changed everything. It's changed how I date, how I form friendships, how I run my business, how I move through the world. I no longer accept relationships where I give everything and receive scraps in return. I no longer mistake being needed for being valued. The wedding that never happened became the beginning of the life I'd never allowed myself to imagine. A life where my needs matter as much as everyone else's, where my happiness is a priority, where I'm seen and appreciated for my whole self. It turns out that when you stop making yourself small to accommodate other people's selfishness, you discover just how big and bright and beautiful your own life can be. And that's worth every cancelled flower arrangement, every forfeited deposit, every uncomfortable conversation it took to get here. That's worth choosing yourself, even when it means disappointing the people you love most, especially then.